just after dawn on April 12th, 1981. A woman's voice, shaking with fear, reported that something terrible had happened in the quiet resort town of Keddie, nestled deep in the woods of Northern California. A triple homicide, a massacre. I'd been a detective long enough to know that something like this wasn't going to be easy. Small towns keep secrets, and this one felt like it was about to explode with them. When I arrived at Cabin 28, the scene hit me like a punch to the gut. The door hung open, revealing a house that looked like it had hosted a battle. Blood splattered the walls, and in the center of the living room lay the bodies. 3 victims, brutally murdered, their lives extinguished in unimaginable violence. On the couch, I found the first victim, Sue Sharp, the matriarch of the family. Her wrists were bound with medical tape, and her face was swollen and bruised from a vicious beating. She had been stabbed repeatedly, deep, angry wounds that spoke of rage, not a simple killing. Next to her lay her son, John Sharp, just 15 years old. His throat had been slit. Across from them, sprawled on the floor, was John's friend Dana Wingate, 17. Dana had been bludgeoned with what looked like a hammer. I scanned the room, trying to take in the scene without letting it get too personal. A knife, bent from the sheer force of the attack, was discarded nearby. A hammer lay next to it, slick with blood. Whoever had done this had meant business. They hadn't just killed, they'd torn these people apart. It wasn't a robbery. Nothing valuable was taken. This was personal, intimate, but something was off. A mother and 2 teenage boys, slaughtered while in the same room. Yet, the house wasn't empty. The other children had survived somehow. In the adjacent bedroom, Sue's daughter, Tina Sharp, age 12, was missing, gone without a trace. Her younger siblings, Rick and Greg, were found asleep, unharmed, along with a neighbor's child, Justin Smart. They had heard nothing. That was the first twist, the silence. A massacre had taken place mere feet from where these children slept, but none of them could explain what had happened. The brutality of the crime versus the stillness of their sleep didn't add up. How could they not have heard the screams? I began questioning the people in the town, searching for anyone who might know something. Keddie wasn't a big place. A handful of cabins, most of them vacation homes. The Sharps were a struggling single-parent family, outsiders to the area, having only recently moved in. No one seemed to know much about them, and no one had any reason to suspect something this horrific would happen. But my gut told me someone in town knew more than they were letting on. I followed the leads, starting with Marty Smart, the stepfather of Justin, the boy who had spent the night in the Sharp cabin. Marty had a reputation in town. Trouble followed him. He'd been overheard making disturbing comments, venting anger towards Sue Sharp. His story was inconsistent, and he seemed nervous during questioning. When I asked about his whereabouts the night of the murders, he claimed he was with a friend, Bo Beatty, an ex-con who had just moved into town. The deeper I dug, the more it seemed like Marty and Bo knew more than they were saying. Bo had a history of violence, and Marty's recent separation from his wife had left him angry and unstable. But without hard evidence, all I had was suspicion. Marty and Bo slipped through our fingers, moving away shortly after the murders, leaving a trail of questions behind. Weeks turned into months. Leads dried up, and Tina Sharp remained missing, until nearly 3 years later, in 1984, when her skull was found 50 miles away, deep in the woods. The discovery of her remains felt like a cruel joke, another layer of horror to an already tragic case. The cause of death couldn't be determined due to decomposition, but it was clear Tina had been murdered. The town grew quiet again, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the answers were right there, just out of reach. I kept returning to the Smart family, especially Marty. In later years, I uncovered a confession Marty had made to his therapist, admitting to the killings, claiming he'd snapped that night. But by the time this evidence came to light, Marty had died. Another dead end. The final twist came years later, when it was revealed that crucial evidence had gone missing from the case file. Key pieces of physical evidence, including parts of the murder weapons and even reports from early suspects, had somehow disappeared. Someone, somewhere, had tried to bury this case to keep the truth hidden. To this day, the murders of Sue Sharp, John Sharp, Dana Wingate, and Tina Sharp remain officially unsolved. The question that haunts me isn't just who did it, but why did the town stay so quiet? What secrets are the people of Keddie still keeping?